accents from those European.
It was Mathis. Okay.
Yeah. He also mentioned that Priest actually is a more favorable matchup into Rogue and also these slower and more greedy decks because it can just kind of fatigue those apparently. So maybe we got a whole wrong read on the Priest entirely, and I hope Kin can prove us wrong and show where this actually shines.
Well, I'm definitely going to be having to practice Galakron Priest a little bit over the weekend, not only because it seems to be doing pretty well, but also because it's apparently Olivia Munn's favourite Hearthstone deck at the moment, and given that we're best friends, I need to make sure that we are in tune in terms of our deck archetypes.
Seriously? Galakron Priest?
Yeah, that's what she said on Twitter.
Amazing. I would never have expected that.
Well, that's obvious, Gia. Yeah, you don't really get it. But either way, the Highlander Rogue as well, available for Kin. Moving on to Glory's decks, actually, as I was just about to dive in. The Rogue, Highlander Rogue from Glory, I can talk about here, is looking to be, as always, fairly reasonably well positioned. And now, I didn't expect to be saying this after last week's, how things were looking last week, but Druid in the top 4 here feels like the weird outlier deck. After how incredibly powerful it was feeling last week, I think I agree with a consensus from a lot of the players that overall, it's maybe past its prime now at this point. It doesn't feel like it's especially well suited to the meta anymore.
It doesn't, but maybe if there is a build that's worth going for, it's the one that does cut Kael'thas altogether, which is what Glory and his other fellow Japanese Grandmasters this week did bring. Instead, they are running the double Mount Seller Ysera as the top end and just relying on the good old natural ramp from Overgrowth to get there. And to be fair, there are a lot of Druid games that are decided before Kael'thas even comes into play, most notably through that card in the middle, Glowfly Storm. So I definitely still see the potential for Druid to get there.
Oh yeah, there's absolutely still potential. It's just whether or not it's able to fight back against the likes of the Warrior. But having said that, given that Glory has banned away the Warrior from Kin, he's clearly got a strong strategy in mind with this Druid. Get rid of the worst matchup for it and try to line it up against the Rogues, of which there's plenty in the current metagame. The most highly brought class for Asia-Pacific overall this week. So, I don't know, maybe even though it's not so well suited to ladder anymore, Glory has still found a good position where it's suited very well to tournament meta, specifically last hero standing. So I definitely hope to see that going well in terms of the counter pick ability. But in terms of the decks that they are going to line up first, with Demon Hunter gone for Glory and the Warrior gone for Kin, I suppose the kind of safest deck they could both line up first would be the Rogue, given that it's not going to be the most powerful for either player, but also has overall decent matchups, I think you could argue.
I think that might be the case for both of them. Yeah, because I'm not sure I like the Rogue's chances against Priest based on Mattis's assessment, also against Druid, and also against Demon Hunter, and also against Priest. So I'm also liking it. I'm generally just liking it in the mirror. It seems like it would be the throwaway deck. And in LHS, I tend to favor queuing up your weakest deck first if you feel like you have any deck that has at least 2 good matchups remaining.
Well, both players may be trying to snipe the Rogue from their opponent if they came to the same conclusion you did, where they wanted to get a good matchup against it first, and both players end up going one level deeper, and we end up with a Priest versus Druid matchup here with a pretty decent starting hand for Glory. Sorry, he's got the early ramp to be able to try and find a exotic Mount Seller or Ysera a little bit later on, but speaking of those cards, he does not have the late game beef he needs to get the job done quite yet.
Right. For Glory, this is going to be one of those Druid panouts where you've got the ramp, you've got the cheap spells the spells that become cheap after you've got the ramp, but then it's very much heavily relying on card draw off the top or something like exotic Mount Seller. That's
not a bad draw. Yep.
But meanwhile, on Kin's side, the Imprisoned Homunculus into Apotheosis is just better than the old Injure Blade Master into Circle of Healing. That's a 4/8 taunt lifesteal. Still a 2-card combo.
Having said that, though, Glory just found the exotic Mount Seller on the other side, and while this is a very impressive minion in the 4/8, it's not applying a lot of damage.
It's not, but Okay, it depends, I guess, on how many griffins we see, but we can see from Kin that he has an answer for the Mount Seller at least, and he's got Holy Nova to deal with smaller minions. And also, the Thought Steal result was pretty insane. Ysera, I can see that coming into play at
Absolutely.
some point if Priest has dealt with the board but maybe doesn't have that counter push available. Ysera can solve that problem.
I don't know, Gia. I think I'm starting to see this
go.
turn around
Yeah.
pretty quick for Glory here. This is looking very nice for him. Because like you said, there's the Time Rip and the Holy Nova that can answer both the board and the Mount Seller, but not on the same turn.
Oh, and with the Roar, I was gonna say
yes.
maybe Kin still has the time.
Speaking
to deal
of
with a couple
Raw,
things. Oh my gosh, he's hit the Mount Seller bingo again. But
the
not
circle
good
of
one,
life.
Yes, you've got Simba, Nala, Mufasa all together.
The gang's back together.
Not a single Griffin. Glory's not a Griffin gamer.
And there's a Rafiki? Not quite the correct type of primate, but we'll take it.
Mm-hmm. And then there's just Raven. Okay, the Silence can at least deal with the Mount Seller this turn if he wanted to, and just take the trade into Holy Nova. But instead he's going to go about it this way around. I'm not entirely sure about this, because after the big go wide turn, there tends to be a lot more of the payoff cards, right? Whereas if the board is just one Mount Seller and 3 minions, I think you'd rather go about it in that order and then Time Rape, I think.
So is this a Soul of the Forest turn? We could see Soul of the Forest, Savage Roar, Ironbark, which means any of the 3 attack minions could take out the Homunculus in one hit, and then you're still left with a very, very scary board.
Right. Could even use Hero Power. Well, I guess it's overkill
Not
with
quite,
the Savage Roar. So he's gonna take
like
the
this a
value
lot.
trade. Yeah, very resistant to AoE because he's got the second layer loaded up. Kin has Penance into Holy Nova, which is a lot of healing. But that leaves 2 2/2s on the
4
board.
health on board. I guess that's just the play. He can
Yeah,
probably clean up thereafter.
This definitely removes the most power.
It is... Oh my god, it's so devastating for Glory. I think he went about it in the right way, just going all in, and continues to go all in with the rarely seen Glowfly for 1. But I just don't think it's going to get there now.
It just doesn't. With Penance, Crystal Power, Shield of Galakron, mind you that Crystal Power was off of Thought Steal. Double Penance, why don't ya? Oh man. Okay, so for Glory now, I'm looking at exactly Ysera into Overflow as his possible out.
Yeah. I mean, whatever it is, it revolves around Overflow primarily.
Sure. And now we might see Kin's steal of the Ysera come into play, because whereas in most panels of the game you might say, oh, Glory's got a lot of time because he's got a bunch of health, you can find 2 or 3 turns to draw Ysera boards. But Kin could get those boards first.
Oh, it's so close! So close, but so far. Mr. Hero Power for 1 health, but whatever.
The Morgue Penance!
Yeah.
Healing.
Start with Mind Flayer just to get a 2/2. Yep. I agree, Gia. I think it's Ysera into Overflow is the out.
I mean, alive on that turn if he didn't draw. Okay, wait. Never mind. We can hypothesize about the apotheosize later. Because now
nice.
Glory's in with a shot, maybe?
Okay.
He's got the Glowfly double Power of the Wild.
Yeah, that's something.
In most outcomes, that gives him 5 Glowflies, because it's most likely to be a spell off the top.
And if it's not a spell, that means it's Ysera or Mount Seller, which is even better.
Sure. I don't know about the attack onto the Morgue. Doesn't. I guess if he's planning on committing only one Power of the Wild, but seeing as there's two, I don't know about the difference between 4 and 3 health. You could play everything.
Yep.
With the Innervate. Oh my gosh. This is not over by any means, guys.
Doesn't even discard a minion. He's actually back in the game.
Oh my gosh.
He's arguably in the lead.
Yeah, he's got lethal on board, and Kin can remove 2 of these. Oh, that's a huge apotheosis.
Wow.
Now he can remove 3 and heal for like 5 from minions alone. Unless he wants to buff Ysera, heal more, but then you can only remove 2.
Yeah, it's probably worth it to get more removal. I agree.
Right. So it goes back up to 23 with the hero power. Glory's showing 16. The list is only running... Sorry, it's got 2 Savage Roars, so that off the top could just seal the game. He's got a bunch of shots at drawing it. Overflow guaranteed.
Is that just game?
But he heals Kin. He heals Kin.
Oh, no! Oh.
Wait.
Okay, he can draw for 1. He can deal 2 damage and still draw.
Right. Oh, Fungal. Doesn't Fungal... Wait. Has he got
There
the
would be
mana
1
now?
card left.
Did he just... Did we miss... Because... Oh, man.
So the thing was, if he goes for Fungal Fortunes, he has a 75% chance to win the game, right, with second Savage Roar.
Right. But if he doesn't get it...
Oh, no, wait, he's played both. Sorry, he's played both.
Oh,
he's already played both. Yes,
okay.
sorry, I just
right,
remembered.
That makes sense. Okay. So now the game plan becomes just going all face, I assume.
I'd have to agree.
Time waits for no one.
With the minions at the very least, yeah. And for Kin, he's got the 1 Plague of Death in the deck, a Soul Mirror, other
Dragons.
AoE left. Yes, dragons.
I will act as your spirit dragon.
But minion even gets him out of this. Or he's just
Not
done
that.
it?
He trades, he heals himself, and then attack, hero power, triple attack. That's game.
Yeah. That's insane.
Whew.
Turns out didn't even have to be a Sarah overflow, just overflow into the
Yep.
Glowfly. No need for Kael'thas.
Very nicely done, and very well positioned there by, or very well remembered, I should say, by Glory, remembering that he's played both Savage Roars. Can't be said for all parties involved.
Very well backtracked.
Yes, exactly. Good job for him there. You know, even if he had it, it maybe still wouldn't have been the correct play, but that's besides the point because it wasn't what actually happened. In the end, I think the things that we can look on that he did well that game was obviously drawing overflow, you know, was what put him back in the game. But earlier than that, I think he put himself in the best position possible by just going as all in as he could, as quick as he possibly could. He could have saved on turn 8. He had the Soul of the Forest and the Glowfly Swarm in hand, and he could have saved them for a second wave, you could argue, on turn 9, but instead he just threw all his resources onto the board, demanded Kin to have the AoE removal. Turns out he did have it, and still ended up losing that series. So I think it was very, very well played by Glory.
Yeah, definitely looking back on it. He also set up what really sticks out to me as a very awkward board for Kin to deal with, because he had the 2/3 health minions, and behind that, the layer of Soul of the Forest. So it kind of demands exactly 2 AoE or Penance plus AoE. It's the right setup where just 1 AoE doesn't actually get there. And making things awkward for the Priest is arguably more important in this matchup than just making things good for you.
Agreed. Yes, I think it's much more important to focus on that. But now it does mean that Kin is left, I believe, with, after his Warrior was banned, Priest has lost, Rogue and Demon Hunter. Definitely expect to see the Demon Hunter going up against the Druid, as it feels like the better matchup than the Highlander Rogue, with, of course, Altruis and Kane that can just completely bypass or destroy all those big taunts and minions. And then in the early game, you also just have all the aggressive potential that Druid struggles to deal with. But before we even get to know what he's going to be playing in this Last Hero Standing series, we are going to jump to a quick break before we come back with the conclusion of our next semi-final match. This is Hearthstone Grandmasters. You're joining us for the Asia-Pacific region, where given that it is Sunday, we are playing out our semi-final and final matches today. We already have our first finalist ready and waiting for us after this match in Surrender. No surprises there, to be perfectly honest. But to find out who is going to be joining him, we are playing out Glory versus Kin. Kin is one of our newcomers to the Hearthstone Grandmasters system this year after his second place at Masters Tour Bucharest late last year, playing very, very well there. And I think it's already well established amongst the pro community that he is just one of the absolute best that Asia-Pacific has to offer.
I can definitely agree with that, but he is on the back foot as of this series because the Priest took a loss against what I think can expect to actually be favorable for him.
Yeah, it was definitely looking
I guess
favorable.
It's close. I mean, towards the middle. I couldn't tell you about Priest versus Druid in general. Maybe it does skew kind of Druid favored, but towards the middle, I really thought Kin had that one on lockdown.
However, Glory has got himself another very juicy hand here, despite lining up what I think we can both agree is regardless of what the other one was, this feels like not a great matchup for the Druid. Generally, you're suffering too much in the early game from all the damage they're throwing down, and then as it gets into the mid/late game, they have too many powerful tools to break through your defenses. But here for Glory, he's not facing down an especially aggressive start, and he's got Overgrowth into 4 0-mana spells on turn 7 with an exotic Mount Seller. Insane.
It's true, and added to Kin's problems is that his own hand is extremely awkward, and I feel like we've seen so many clunky Demon Hunter draws throughout the weekend, and it's a direct result of the nerfs, which of course changed the way that people are building Demon Hunter to begin with. They're now mostly running the mid-range-ish package of the Raging Fell Screamers and the Priestesses of Fury, which are very expensive cards, strong ones, but it just makes the early game that Demon Hunter is so known for and probably nerfed for less consistent.
In a phrase I use a little bit too often, I think, in my life, for Glory here, I love doing nothing. I think he's doing absolutely right by just passing, taking out the 1/1s, not using any of his spells, because he's just setting up for that giga powerful turn on 7.
Yeah, he is about to pop off. And there's not much Kin can do about it except race. It's already getting like, since Glory's just gonna have far too many minions for Kin to deal with, that Kin needs to find Metamorphosis and a way to stay alive for 2 turns.
Agreed.
And the Griffin! Glory, the king of Griffin! It's happened again, girl.
A taunt, a diving Griffin. Okay, and a rabbit. You get 2 good ones and a bad one. That seems fair.
You got 2 amazing ones and a bad one. And he's got Crystal Power in hand if he even... I mean, that's not even relevant, is it? It's a double Savage Roar. And Glory knows it. He knows he's won. Look at that expression. And yet Kin...
I take back everything I said about Druid. It's disgusting. Is there anything?
Nope.
He can't even attack into something else and then use the Glaive Bound to take out the taunt.
There's nothing. Okay, that's the first time I've seen Kin emote in any sense of the word. I feel like a small shake of the head is the most we're getting out of this stone cold killer, if the series versus Tyler was any indication.
Yeah, he was giving him nothing, but that's just lethal, right?
GG's. Well beyond it.
Yeah, no beasts can stop this for Glory. Yikes! Wow, well, we were saying that if he does not win this... if Kin is not able to take the counter and win this second game, he is looking to be in a very rough position. And now, in one of the quickest and least interactive games we've ever seen here in Hearthstone Grandmasters, or in Hearthstone full stop, I think it's fair to say, Kin is now 1 game away from dropping out of this week's competition.
And it really sucks to go out that way if that is going to be the plan out. Of course, he's not out of it completely, but he will have to pull off a reverse sweep if he's going to have any chance of making it to the finals. And that's going to be with his Rogue, I do believe. And that's a class that I think can pull it off.
I think so too. I feel like it's got a much better chance than the regular Galakron version, at least from what we've seen, mainly just in Zephyrus itself. I feel like that offers so much flexibility in your game plan. If you have an aggressive start and the Druid is unable to keep up, you can go for maybe your own Savage Roar, give the Druid a taste of their own medicine to go for lethal. You can make a big Edwin, which is difficult for them to answer. If they do get ahead on board, you can go for an AoE to clear things off. The vast majority of early game strategies, I feel like, revolve around Zephyrus. So for Kin's sake, I hope he can find that before things turn too late.
I would definitely agree. And throughout the weekend and last week, we've seen very different ways, I suppose, of approaching the matchup from the Rogue side versus Druid. And I do believe Glory was one of the Rogues that we praised a lot, even though that particular outcome didn't actually pan out for him. But I think that he was the one that advocated the aggressive race the Druid type of game plan, whereas we saw from Tom the other way you can go about it, to just try and control the board as the Rogue and just complete resources.
It's not going to be easy to do that, especially given that there is the Ysera right up at the top end for Glory, and also because his starting hand here, I mean, I think you can see it from his wry smile there.
my
He's
gosh.
pretty insane. Glowfly is exactly what you want against Rogue.
Okay, Kin did keep the flick though, and I agree. That's like outside of Zephyrus, the only way to clear a board of glowflies conveniently. Oh my gosh.
Well, now it gets a little bit more difficult here for Glory because, well, it's a good kind of difficult because he's got too many powerful things to do. But how should he sequence this? It could be coin Overgrowth into Glowfly. It could be coin Glowfly on 4. It could be Overgrowth on 4 into Mount Seller the turn after.
I'm definitely looking at the coin Overgrowth into Glowfly. I was going to say that the only bad outcome for that is if he doesn't draw many spells, but the best thing you could get there outside of Fungal Fortunes is the Rising Winds, because it draws you cards while still remaining a spell in hand. Just that's how Twin Spell works, and oh man, I kind of feel for Kin. The way that Tyler got dunked on over a very long period, Kin's getting dunked on in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, this is like a focus beam of dunk.
Wait, he has the Saber, so he can actually go up to the Flick mana.
So he can deal with the board?
Yes, the first one.
Okay. Obviously, with the way it works, that Glowfly summons minions, it's not a minion itself. Flick will obviously not destroy the second Glowfly in Glory's hand, so he still has plenty of options, including if he wanted to. Just a exotic Mount Seller on this turn does not look too bad.
Pretty decent with the Moonfire.
Moonfire is nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, he can get rid of the Flick now. Of course, it's a bit scary to leave up the Mana Saber, but the other option is to go for another Glowfly. With 3 minions on the rogue side, doesn't seem good enough, right?
I really like the Mount Seller on this turn.
Wait till you see this Diving Griffin.
Not bad. The 3 mana Taunt Beast Bros.
Okay. And now I wouldn't actually hate putting the Iron Bark on the Bear instead of the Mount Seller, because Rogue is good at dealing with one big minion at a time. I'd like him to portion out his threats and also put this at a health total where it doesn't just die straight up to the Mana Saber or the Spy Mistress.
I like that too.
Oh. Dr. Bear and his little silver patriarchs, I guess. So Kin can take double trades into the Bear, go up to 7 mana. He can then sap and play Faceless Corruptor if he wants. That's a full board clear.
This sounds pretty good to me.
Very strong.
Gotta be honest.
Yeah.
I didn't think that Kin would be anywhere near this good of a scenario, but keeping the Flick on the Mulligan, which is an incredibly low keep rate card for Rogue, turns out it may have been the genius stroke to give him a chance here.
Pretty much this matchup exactly is where you want to keep Flick and nowhere else, I think. But the Glory Wave 2 might just be beginning. Of course, this turn is looking a bit slow. I think it's... He could just go for the Glowfly this turn, and the next turn he's got...
Really?
I mean, that's what he's thinking about, right?
Does he not want to go Glowfly plus Soul of the Forest next turn? I feel that's just so likely to win him the game.
It is very strong, but then that turn is not really dealing with the board, and it takes about, 12 over 2 turns? I guess it's not that bad. Because
losing Ysera along the way does definitely hurt for Glory, but I think it's not too devastating. I think he's still in with a very, very good chance of taking the win.
I'd be surprised to see the Overgrowth here, because I think you're probably looking at Fog Beam this turn, and then if you use 2 spells, then the Glowfly gets a bit bad. But I guess saving it here leaves him an option for the Mount Seller turn instead.
Yeah, it's a pretty good Mount Seller turn as well, actually, with the Moonfire off the top.
So Kin now, this is the window for him to try and close out the game. He knows that Glory's refilled. It's probably a big board coming back against him on the next turn. So is it just 2-drop Edwin here? That's not.
I don't know. He was reaching for the Shield of Galakron really quickly, and then he started thinking, wait, Waxamancy can offer me a 1 or 2 mana Battle Cry, which would give me a very, very big Edwin indeed.
Yeah, I'm not completely sure either.
I supply only the finest creatures.
Granted, if he expected even just one minion to be cleared on board, he wasn't presenting lethal on the other side.
Yeah.
I think it's a reasonable assumption.
Oh, it's such a gamble here for Glory. He could go for the fungal fortunes to try and find Innovate, and if he did, that would be so insane, but he misses on the crystal power if he whiffs.
Completely backbreaking. And he's got to think about if he leaves 9 damage on board, 10 with the dagger, how can he die? There's Eviscerates, plus, I guess, exactly 2 lackeys, because it is Highlander. Oh, there's, of course, Zephyrus. Yeah. I guess I would be inclined to just take out the fort too. He's still in a really good spot. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just an unnecessary risk to go for fungal.
Mm-hmm. So the Dragon Horde can give him... I don't know, but at the very least, you start off with that to try and build the Edwin.
Astromancer Solarian. Yeah, that's probably the best option. If he can draw the Prime version, that could be another board wipe.
So looking for, I guess, Spell Lackey here, but maybe it's not the play this turn, because you probably want to deal with a bit of the board, build the Edwin.
Agreed. Yeah.
So something like the Rush Lackey to kill the 2/2, play the Edwin, send the rest face.
If he goes Edwin first, it's a 6/6, right? But he could still use that to clear off the Mount Cellar, which is probably the most pressing thing.
True.
Yeah, I think that's what he's setting up for here.
Right.
Oh, but with Backstab, he can do both.
Wow. Okay.
That's an insane draw.
Yeah. Absolutely right.
Edwin, rush it. The Edwin survives. The
And
board's
now he
almost
just
clear.
transitions to a control game plan.
Wait,
somewhat.
transitions to lethal.
It's both. Yeah. He clears the board and sets up lethal. I was thinking of going face, but this is clearly just better. Wrath. Very big deal here.
So Glory this turn could forego the Soul of the Forest and instead go trade the Porcupine first, and then Glowfly, Wrath, the Edwin, and then Innovate Power of the Wild. That seems pretty good, right?
It does. I'm thinking if there's any argument to Wrath first, but that would just leave 6 spells in hand.
Yeah.
Because, of course, if you trade first, some of the Porcupine Needles get wasted on Edwin. But okay, so I guess he's going for the power now, gets an extra needle this way. Okay. Oh, sorry, not a needle.
Okay.
It stays alive, so he takes a value.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I can get behind this.
Sure. I'm fine with this as well. Yeah, I didn't really see this line, but this seems okay. And the important thing is, he is easily setting up lethal on this turn. Kin needs to find some way of dealing with all of this, and at the moment, it's just not there.
If he gets Fan of Knives with the
Solarian. Yeah.
Oh man, those aren't good. Even a Betrayal would be pretty fine here, I'd say.
Eviscerate with spell damage never offers lethal, right? He's digging through battle cry minions to try and find a board clear.
What other choice did he have?
Yeah.
Now I think he's looking at evolving for a taunt or rush.
Oh my god. Brewmaster to bounce? Maybe.
Yeah, I think that's better than looking for a random battle cry. His mana remaining is very precious now. So it's gotta be... Oh man, I don't know about that.
Okay, that's another lackey.
Okay.
Choose soon.
So the Miscreant can VT, but maybe die to needles.
Yeah, well he has to take out Glowfly and then the Porcupine thereafter. And then it's technically not lethal unless all the Porcupine needles go face.
Is one off? Am I seeing this right?
25, 27, 28. Yep, looks like one off to me.
Even so, how is Kin going to deal with Soul of the Forest? Even Zephyrus into something doesn't deal with the Death Rattles.
This is actually quite a difficult position. He could either put his opponent to 1 or clear the lackey for Togwaggle. But actually, having said that, 10 mana, there's lackeys in hand. Just put them to 1.
Right.
I think you definitely go face here.
So it has to be another runner Galakrond into Kronks into well, Zephyrus will cost 0 mana at that point, so it can give you Frostnova.
Okay.
That's the only out I'm seeing. Frostnova or like a very high roll Lightning Storm. Yeah, no wait, Lightning Storm does it because it'll only be 2/2s after that, but that's not even a possibility.
Is there any way he can draw, like anything he could evolve into?
Just a bunch, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. Or he could evolve into a Death Rattle draw minion and then rush it in and draw Zephyrus that way, something absurd like that.
That does sound absurd. Whoa, those are both draw minions, but not what he wanted.
Yeah. Ancient Guardian, Taunt Reborn? Wings Guardian, that's what I meant, yeah.
And that is yet another 3-0 sweep. Man, we are making the other regions look bad with how quickly these games go.
We are a bunch of absolute zoomers, absolutely zooming through the games today, and I'm sure Glory, of all people, is very, very happy about it. It's got to be said, he got pretty close to the ideal Druid hand 3 games in a row. I suppose the Priest was only the slightly shaky start where his board was cleared, but of course, top decking the Overflow very quickly sorted that out in the mid game. I think he played it very well. I think he knew exactly what he was going for. Didn't take too much of a risk with Fungal Fortunes right towards there at the end. He knew the cards he was looking for, ramping up to the exotic Mount Cell as quick as possible. But really, as much as we can praise him for playing it well, the gods just delivered on that day.
For sure. As we can argue, they delivered for Kin yesterday, but
Sure.
not too bad still for Kin as somebody who made top 8 last week, still walking away with 4 points from today. And if you remember the graphic from the beginning, guys, the little asterisk means they had more to earn. But of course, if you don't make at least second place, there's an additional 0 points. So now, Glory and Surrender to the finals. This is going to be a banger.
It's going to be a good one. Let's take a look at that bracket to see, in all its glory, our finals here. It is going to be Surrender from South Korea up against Glory from Japan. I want to give a huge shout out to Kin as well, though. I think that despite the fact he has only just joined us in Hearthstone Grandmasters, he is really already proving that he is not only deserved of his spot here, but also is actually right up at the top in terms of the tier list for Asia-Pacific at the moment. You know, Surrender, I think, has to be the undisputed number 1 at the moment, given his performances. But Kin, I would put very, very close underneath that, just purely in terms of his play. I think even in that series, you could just see he knew exactly what he was trying to do. Small things that seem insignificant, but are actually very, very important. Keeping the flick in the mulligan, knowing exactly when to just spend all his cards in the Priest versus Druid. He was doing stuff like Apotheosis on a minion that was only just turned undormant, so it couldn't even attack. But he just knew exactly how to try and dominate the board versus Druid. Didn't end up working out for him because Glory's draws were just too powerful. But I expect to see good things from him, as he will very likely end up in Division A as we head into the round robin.
Yeah, I also want to say for Glory, there were a lot of small things he also did. Of course, the draws were pretty much the ideal for him, but he was still looking for a little bit of micro optimization. I'd say things like where to put the Iron Barks onto the Bear, and the order with that turn of the Heart of the Wild and Soul of the Forest.
True.
And whether he actually wanted to keep his Porcupine alive. I think those were great displays of just attention to detail, which I'm very happy to see, because we were seeing that type of slip up from Glory the other day, just small things, carelessness. And now he's definitely put the sloppiness aside, which he will definitely need to keep up if he wants to beat Surrender.
That's right. His overall knowledge was always on point. It was just the small technical plays which were lacking. Now he's sorted that out. We are going to have an absolutely fantastic final, I believe, between Surrender and Glory. But we need to give Glory a moment to recuperate, I think, maybe do a little jig around his room with how happy he is with how that went. So we're going to go to a quick break, allow him to jig away to his heart's content, and we'll be right back with the finals after this.